So, before you skip this video, I want you to do one thing. Think about the smartest, hardest working person you know. Someone who never stopped grinding. Never made excuses. Never wasted a day. Now tell me honestly, are they wealthy? Probably not. And that should terrify you. Because if effort was the answer, that person would be rich by now. But they are not. And neither are millions exactly like them. So either the system is broken, or the system is working perfectly, just not for you. I am Warren Buffett. I have spent 90 years at the intersection of money, human behavior, and economic reality. And I can tell you with complete certainty which one it is. The system is working exactly as designed. The problem is nobody told you what it was designed to do. Today I am going to fix that. 7 secrets. Not theories. Not motivation. Structural truths about how money actually moves, who it moves toward, and why it keeps moving away from the people who need it most. If you have ever worked hard and still felt like you were falling behind, this video is the conversation nobody in your life ever had with you. Stay until the end, because secret number 7 is the one that will change how you see everything that came before it. Let us begin. Secret number 1. Poverty is expensive, and nobody tells you the price. Here is a question that sounds cruel but is mathematically honest. Why does it cost more to be poor than to be wealthy? Think about it carefully. A wealthy person buys a refrigerator once. A high-quality machine that runs for 20 years without a problem. A poor person buys the cheapest available model. That model breaks in 3 years. Over 20 years, the poor person buys the same appliance 7 times. They spend double the money. They endure 5 separate crises, each one requiring emergency funds they do not have. This is not a coincidence. This is a pattern, and it repeats in every corner of a poor person's life. Cheap shoes fall apart faster. Cheap cars cost more in repairs than a reliable car costs in payments. Cheap apartments have mold that destroys health and generates medical bills that arrive without warning. Cheap food delivers calories without nutrition, quietly building future healthcare costs that dwarf every grocery saving. Economists call this the poverty penalty. I call it the cruelest tax in the world. Because it is invisible. It is unlegislated. And it punishes the people who can least afford to pay it. But here is what makes it truly catastrophic. It is not just the money. Research from Princeton University revealed something that stunned the academic world. Financial scarcity does not just drain your bank account. It drains your brain. When a person is under severe financial pressure, their cognitive bandwidth, their ability to think clearly, plan ahead, make rational decisions, drops measurably. We are talking about impairment equivalent to functioning after a full night without sleep. Now think about what that means in practice. The person who needs to make the most precise financial decisions, who cannot afford a single error, who is navigating the most complex terrain, is doing all of that with a compromised mind. Meanwhile, the wealthy person, freed from survival panic, is making long-horizon decisions with a calm, fully operational brain. The system did not need to be designed maliciously. It simply needed to create conditions where the poor were too exhausted to think their way out. So what do? You build what I call a cognitive buffer. Before you touch a single investment. Not thousands. Not a retirement account. A small protected emergency reserve. For some people that is 20,000 rupees. For others 50,000. The amount is secondary. The function is everything. That reserve converts the next disaster from a catastrophe into an inconvenience. An inconvenience does not consume your bandwidth. Your mind stays clear. Your time horizon extends. You stop reacting to today and start planning for 10 years from now. That shift in time horizon is worth more than any stock tip I could ever give you. And what I am about to tell you next, secret 2, is the one truth the education system spent years hiding inside a lie. A lie so convincing that most people die never questioning it. Secret number 2. You are not paid what you deserve. You are paid what you can be replaced for. I want to dismantle something the education system spent years building inside your skull. The belief that effort is rewarded proportionally. Work hard. Get promoted. Earn more. Repeat until comfortable. This model is not how money works. It is how compliance works. It is how institutions keep people productive, patient, and in their seats for 40 years. Go to any construction site. The person carrying bricks in 40-degree heat is exerting more physical effort than any investment banker alive. Their contribution is real. The building cannot exist without them. And they earn in a month what the banker earns before lunch. This is not injustice. This is supply and demand applied without sentiment. When 10,000 people can do the same job at the same quality for the same cost, none of those people has any negotiating power. The market sets the price at the minimum required to fill the position. You are not a person to the market in that moment. You are a unit of interchangeable labor. The wealthy understand this structurally. They do not compete to become the best version of a common thing. They engineer themselves into a position of genuine scarcity. A specialist surgeon earns more than a general doctor. Not because surgery requires more effort, because fewer people can perform it. A professional who combines 3 rare skills is not 3 times more valuable than someone with 1 skill. They are 30 times more valuable, because that combination does not exist in abundance. Build a rare combination, not one exceptional skill. A constellation of skills that overlap in ways the market has not yet standardized. A writer who understands finance. A doctor who understands systems and content. A teacher who understands behavioral psychology and distribution. When you become genuinely rare, the negotiation changes entirely. You stop being a price taker. You become a price maker. And once you have that, you build leverage. Ways to earn from your knowledge that do not require your hourly presence. A course. A system. Something that earns while you sleep. That is the real escape hatch. Not a higher salary. A fundamentally different relationship with income. And what comes next, secret 3, is the single mistake that keeps 90% of people permanently stuck. Even the ones who are finally earning well. Secret number 3. The difference between the rich and the poor is one word. Assets. I have said this in different forms for 60 years. Repetition does not make it less true. Rich people buy assets. Poor people buy liabilities while telling themselves those liabilities are assets. Let me be precise. Because most people have learned these words incorrectly. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket whether you work that day or not. A share in a profitable company. A rental property. A business that runs with systems rather than your personal labor. A royalty-generating piece of intellectual work. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. A loan payment. A depreciating vehicle. A designer purchase bought on credit. The confusion, the expensive confusion, is that many liabilities look exactly like assets. The house you live in is not an asset in the way I define the term. It generates no income, requires maintenance, taxes, insurance, repairs. It may appreciate over time, but until you sell it, that appreciation is theoretical. It can be part of a strategy, but it is not a passive income engine. The new car bought on financing is not an asset. It loses significant value the moment it leaves the showroom. It continues declining every year while requiring you to make payments on something worth less than what you owe. The wealthy are taught to distinguish between these 2 categories from childhood. They allocate surplus income toward assets first. They treat lifestyle spending as something funded by the returns those assets generate, not by primary income itself. The poor are taught, implicitly and explicitly, that the evidence of financial success is visible. The phone. The apartment. So they spend on the costumes of wealth before acquiring any of the mechanisms of wealth. And the costumes leave nothing for the mechanisms. Start asking one question about every purchase. Does this put money in my pocket or take money out? That question applied consistently over years quietly changes everything. Now pause for a second. Everything I have told you so far is defense, protection, survival. What comes next is offense. And this is where real wealth actually begins. Secret number 4. Inflation is not an economic problem. It is a wealth transfer mechanism. Every year the money sitting in your savings account is worth slightly less than it was the year before. You already know this as a concept. What most people do not understand is where that value goes. Inflation is not simply prices rising. Inflation is purchasing power moving from people who hold cash to people who hold assets. Think about it this way. A kilogram of gold in 2010 cost a certain amount in currency. Today, that same kilogram costs dramatically more in currency terms. But it is still the same kilogram of gold. It can still be exchanged for the same real goods in relative proportion. The gold did not change. The currency changed around it. Now apply that to real estate, to equity in businesses, to productive land, to any asset that generates real economic output. The person who owned assets in 2010 watched the currency prices of those assets rise with inflation. Their value was protected, often amplified. The person who held savings in a low-interest bank account in 2010 watched their purchasing power quietly decline every single year. Not dramatically, not visibly, just enough, compounded over time, to constitute a devastating long-term loss. This is not a conspiracy. Central banks have explicit inflation targets. Moderate inflation is considered economically healthy, but the side effect of that policy is permanent. Asset holders are insulated. Cash holders are slowly penalized. The wealthiest families in the world have understood this for generations. Their capital is never sitting idle in low-yield accounts. It is deployed into assets that move with or ahead of inflation. You do not need to be wealthy to begin this migration. A small consistent position in a diversified equity index fund is you moving to the correct side of the inflation equation. Over 20 years, that shift is not a minor adjustment. It is the difference between a retirement that works and one that quietly fails. Secret number 5. Time is not money. Time is the engine that generates money. And you are burning it right now. Let me tell you about 2 people. The first person starts investing 5,000 rupees every month at age 25. They do this for 10 years, then stop completely. Never invest another rupee. The money simply sits and compounds. The second person waits until age 35. Then invests 5,000 rupees every month for 30 years without stopping. 3 times the contribution period. 3 times the discipline. By age 65, who has more? Most people say the second person without hesitation. They are wrong. The first person has significantly more. Not slightly. Dramatically more. Because the decade between age 25 and 35 is not an ordinary decade. Those years are the foundation upon which every subsequent year multiplies. Compound growth does not add. It multiplies. And the early years are the exponent that determines everything. Every year you delay beginning, you are not losing 1 year of returns. You are losing the multiplied output of those returns across every subsequent decade. I started my investment education at age 7. Made my first investment at 11. The single most valuable decision I ever made was not which company to buy. It was starting early and refusing to stop. You cannot retrieve wasted years. But you can stop wasting years starting today. The most expensive words in personal finance are not bad contract terms or hidden fees. They are the 6 words people say quietly to themselves throughout their 20s and 30s. I will start when things stabilize. Things will never stabilize. Start today. Start small. The amount is almost irrelevant. The habit is everything. Secret number 6. The wealthy do not avoid taxes. They read the code. And the code was written for them. I pay a lower effective tax rate than my secretary. I have stated this publicly. It generated significant controversy. People interpreted it as confession or political argument. That was not my point. My point was this. The tax code in virtually every country on earth was written by people who owned businesses and assets. It was written to accommodate economic activities that create growth and employment. And it contains structures that are extraordinarily favorable to those who operate within them. The salaried employee receives income. The government takes its share immediately through payroll deduction. The employee manages the remainder. This is the default setting. It requires no action. And inaction keeps you exactly here forever. The business owner operates differently. A legitimate business can deduct expenses that produce income, office space, equipment, transportation used for business purposes. professional development, technology, health insurance in many jurisdictions. These are not loopholes. They are structural features of a system designed to encourage productive economic activity. The investor benefits from preferential rates on long-term capital gains. The real estate investor benefits from depreciation deductions that reduce taxable income while the actual asset potentially appreciates. These instruments are legal. They are available to anyone who positions themselves to use them. The poor are not excluded from these structures by law. They are excluded by ignorance of their existence. You do not need to become a tax attorney. You need one conversation with a qualified accountant about how your income is structured. That single conversation could be worth more than years of investment returns. The money you legally keep is exactly as valuable as the money you earn. And this final secret, Secret 7, is the one that ties everything together. Miss this and the other 6 mean nothing. Secret number 7. Wealth is not a destination. It is an operating system. And you have to build it yourself. This is the hardest idea I will ask you to hold today. Most people think of wealth as a number they are trying to reach, a target, a finish line. They imagine the moment a specific balance is achieved and then security and comfort follow automatically. This is not how wealth works. Wealth is a system, a set of interconnected mechanisms that generate, protect, and grow resources over time. And the critical distinction between the wealthy and everyone else is not that one group has more money. It is that one group has a functioning system, and the other group has only income. Income without a system runs until the income stops. When the income stops, everything stops. There is no secondary engine. No asset base producing returns in the background. Just silence where the money used to come from. The architecture of a real wealth system has 5 components. Defense comes first. A buffer account that prevents one emergency from dismantling everything. Basic insurance that protects the system from catastrophic loss. Elimination of high-interest debt that runs as a reverse compounding engine working against you every single day. Accumulation comes second. A consistent redirect of earned income into productive assets. Equity funds. Real estate. A business. Intellectual property. The amount matters less than the consistency. This is the engine you are building. Leverage comes third. Income sources that do not require your active hourly presence. Something that earns while you are elsewhere. This is the multiplier that eventually separates your time from your income entirely. Protection comes fourth. Tax strategy. Inflation defense. And the often unspoken threat of lifestyle inflation. The pressure, internal and social, to spend proportionally as income grows. This single force destroys more wealth building than any market crash in history. Time comes fifth and last. Because all of the above requires it. The system only reaches full power through years of uninterrupted operation. This is not a quick mechanism. It is a slow, powerful, relentless one. And the people who win financially are almost always the ones who were patient enough to let it run without interruption. Let me close with the truth that took me a lifetime to learn how to say simply. The 7 things I told you today are not secrets guarded in private vaults. They are not insider information available only to those with the right connections. They are structural realities about how money works that have always been available to anyone who knew to look for them. The reason the poor are never taught these things is not malice. It is silence. The wealthy child absorbs this knowledge the way they absorb language. From the environment. From conversations that happen naturally among people for whom wealth is familiar. From parents who knew because their parents knew. The poor child grows up in a different kind of silence. Not because anyone chose to hide this, but because nobody around them had ever been handed the map either. The cycle is not enforced by cruelty. It is sustained by the absence of one conversation across generations. Today I tried to have that conversation with you. What happens next belongs entirely to you. Information without action is just biography. Wisdom without execution is decoration. You now have the map. The decision of whether to follow it and how soon you begin belongs to no one but you. The compounding engine requires time. And the time you have starting from this exact moment is the most irreplaceable resource you will ever possess. Do not waste it. Thank you for watching. If this changed how you think about money, share it with someone who needed to hear it but never did. Subscribe to Capital Decode. We are here every week. Not to tell you what you want to hear, but to tell you what they never did.